Welcome, everyone.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Scott.
Oh, happy to be here.
Yeah.
My camera adjusted here.
Sure. Just wanted to welcome everybody to the October BCPC advisory meeting. We are recording this for those folks that have conflicts and couldn't make it, but are still interested in the information. Rather than do a whole round of introductions, we are asking anyone on the call to please put your name in the chat along with your organization that you're representing, the role you are occupying in that organization, and your coverage area. So that could be a geographical coverage area where you serve, but also what part of the broadband deployment, adoption, digital literacy spectrum you work within, even if that's multiple areas. So we all have a little bit of an idea of who is here and what it is, your unique perspective you're bringing to this conversation. While you are putting your name in the chat and your organization and role, I'm going to ask the BCPC team to please take a tour here and introduce yourselves. I'm Shelby Arthur. I am the Tri-County Coordinator for the Broadband Consortium Pacific Coast. I also live and work out of Santa Barbara County, and so I am our key contact member from Santa Barbara County. And I'll just go down the list here. Malika, would you share?
Hi, everybody. I'm Malika. Sorry about the echo. I am working with Broadband Consortium as the Ventura County Coordinator, in addition to working on digital equity initiatives as well. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Michael?
Hey everybody, Michael Foote. I'm Director of Economic Development at REACH and in San Luis Obispo County with BCPC.
Tim?
Hi everybody, my name is Tim Tierney, doing GIS and mapping work for the Broadband Consortium.
Tim and Nadine.
Hi everybody, my name is Nadine and I'm doing communications for the BCPC.
Thanks. Some of you who have been joining us for a long time might be saying to yourselves, where is Bill Simmons? Bill Simmons has been leading the consortium for about a dozen years. He has chosen 2024 to really be the year he actually is retiring. He's been threatening it for a couple of years, and this is his year. He is still on our advisory board. He is still helping us to understand the history and the context of the region in terms of broadband deployment and adoption. And he is not here today because he is with his grandkids. So we thank Bill, and we'll hopefully get to see him next month. Just to run through our agenda real quickly here. Welcome and introductions. If you just joined us, please put your name in the chat along with your organization and the areas you're serving. We will run through a few California Broadband for All updates from CPUC, CDT, and TIA, and give you a quick update of things that you should, sort of keep on your calendar, keep track of. And then we're going to jump right into our special topic today, discussing regional resilience and interconnectivity in our region, our Tri-County region. We have two panels that will run back to back. I think after panel one, we'll take a short, few questions. You're welcome to put your questions in the chat, and one of our BCPC team members will make sure that we bring those questions up to our panelists at the right time. Our first panel is around regional projects and the impact of those projects on connecting our municipalities, and what regionalization can do for improving resiliency. And then our second panel is talking about tools for sharing assets. Specifically the GIS platform that Broadband Consortium has been using to really try to bring together the regional conversation in terms of deployment in our area. After both of our panels, we will of course have an opportunity for a roundtable discussion where you can bring your updates as well. But we did kick that to the end of the meeting to make sure our panelists have enough time to share what their perspective is. Next slide. Oops. I think we missed the FFA one. Can we go back one? There we go. So we've got a few updates. I'm going to kick it to Michael first for our FFA update.
Yeah, just really quick. We have the FFA last mile here, and I believe happening right now. But the staff recommendations are pretty exciting for San Luis Obispo, really looking at both some of the unincorporated areas and 3 of the cities looking to receive funding. So City of San Luis Obispo, Atascadero, and Paso, with Astound, really leading in Atascadero and Paso for their applications, and then SurfNet for a lot of the rural areas. So definitely, more to come on that, depending on what those recommendations actually show up as. But looking at the full 18 million award amount, so exciting for SLO and more to be heard soon.
Thank you. And as a reminder, Santa Barbara County FFA was already awarded. I believe we have someone from the Shumash Fiber Project actually on our call today. So big congratulations directly to you for the FFA award. We are still waiting to hear about Ventura County. And our understanding from the FFA team is that the remaining funds left over in any county that were not awarded in this round of announcements will be deferred to a round 2 of FFA applications. Timeline to be determined, but any eligible applicant will be able to submit applications for the remaining funds for projects that are that are reaching broadband serviceable locations that still are showing as unserved. No big update on BEAD. Just a reminder, if you have BEAD questions that come up, the broadband caseworkers are available for assistance with your application when it's announced. We're expecting, I think, around December to have more information on that. And then next slide, I just wanted to give a quick update from CDT. The California Department of Technology is shepherding the state digital equity plan. They did issue their capacity sub-grant program guidelines this month. The public comment on those proposed guidelines is due October 29th. CDT is asking for 1 public comment per organization so that they can review them all, not more than 1 public comment from each organization. So just 1 per organization. We strongly encourage you to check it out, especially if your organization does digital inclusion work through adoption, digital literacy courses. If you are part of that end of Broadband for All, we strongly encourage you to review the SSTEP sub-grant program guidelines. They're not very long, so it shouldn't take a really long time for you to review them. It does include the formula that they're using to calculate how much funding is allocated to each county and how much funding is allocated to statewide initiatives. So review that, check it out. There, you can review the public comments that have already been submitted, and you can submit your public comment online as well. We'll be sending those links out in our email here. Next slide. I'll pause actually. Does anyone have any questions about any of our Broadband for All updates, CDT, CPUC? Any thoughts? Okay, great. Well, we'll introduce our special topic. So as you may or may not recall, the last 3 months, we have spotlighted each county in our region to discuss the actual initiatives coming out of each county. All right, so we did Ventura County in July, San Luis Obispo County in August, and Santa Barbara County in September, sharing out municipal projects, ISP projects, collaborations, really sharing the priorities for each of those counties in our region. And now, to close out the year, we really want to bring those 3 county priorities into a discussion together and talk about improving regional resilience and what would the impact of interconnection between our municipalities, maybe between our counties, what does that really provide in terms of safety, security, resilience for our communities, but also maybe for opportunities moving into the future, whether that's improved economic development opportunities, bringing businesses to our Pacific Coast area, retaining businesses that offer quality jobs that are future forward, and what can these sort of kind of collaborations, how can they positively impact our communities? So we have 2 panels, and we'll again run through the first panel, ask if there's kind of monitor the chat for questions. So if you have any questions or thoughts or inputs, please feel free to drop them in the chat while our panelists are talking. And then we can have a brief discussion after panel 1, but we'll really try to lean into panel 2 right away and have a larger, more robust conversation after. Next slide. So I'm going to ask our 3 panelists here, representing the California Broadband Alliance, Lumen, and Astound, to introduce yourselves, and then we'll walk through 2 questions. So I'll start with California Broadband Alliance. Jessica, would you introduce yourself?
Hi there. My name is Jessica. I'm representing California Broadband Alliance, both the president of California Broadband Alliance and partner SurfNet. They're with the CPUC voting meeting today because 5 San Luis Obispo grants are going to be voted on today to be awarded. So that's exciting. And so I'm just a stand-in, but look forward to the panel.
Thank you. And Lumen? Scott?
Yeah, hi, Scott Pullman. I'm with Lumen. I'm a business development director, and I focus on digital inclusion and broadband projects. And we're a recipient and part of the Middle Mile Broadband Network in the state of California. And looking forward to the panel today. Thanks.
Thanks. And Jeff from Astound.
Yeah, and I'm Jeff Buckingham with Astound, and I'm based in San Luis Obispo and formerly with Digital West, and now as part of Astound, we're building out broadband throughout the Tri-County area.
Great. So I think we'll go through and the 3 of you can sort of trade off who gets to go first as you like. But first, would you share a little bit about the projects that you're working on in our region and share, how are they important for regional resiliency? What do you see as the added value of your project to improving interconnection and resiliency in our region?
So to go with the same order, for the California Broadband Alliance's purpose is to work with local ISPs to help support their work in the gap where, with this particular grant, the last mile grant, there was additional points if the resulting infrastructure was going to be owned publicly by a municipality or a nonprofit. And so we're partnering with the ISP to take over that ownership so that it helps to support keeping the costs low for the consumers. In the vision of Senate Bill 156, ensuring that the project has that second set of eyes and oversight to support the ISPs and to help with the gaps that the experts that are building these networks have when it comes to capacity, access to potential grants to support share of costs and things like that. And really add that like community aspect to these projects that are usually done by an individual company. So it's creating that sense of community with each of the build outs. And with this particular region of San Luis Obispo, there's 5 of the awards being voted on today are in that region, and it's quite a large number of community members that is going to be served with this build. It's close to 2,500 households, so that's pretty exciting. And with the diversity that San Luis Obispo has for, you know, the income in the regions, it helps to make sure that every home and every person is served regardless of their income.
Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, so this is Scott again. So connectivity is really critical to to communities throughout the country and in this region. And when we think about how quickly AI is going to transform our everyday lives now and in the future, as we're moving forward quickly, we got to make sure that nobody's behind. And so here at Lumen, we kind of feel like we play a part in keeping communities safer, healthier, and engaged. And we do that by opening up the power of our vast network to make sure there's middle mile connectivity to unserved communities. So when you think about these ISPs that are connecting the residents and the businesses in your region, that's one piece of the puzzle, is to get connected to the people that are going to use the network. But you also have to get them connected to where the services are. So and most of the country, those are in the major metropolitan areas. So in California, it's it's Los Angeles, it's San Jose, it's Sacramento, these larger cities. And so that middle mile connection, what it does is it provides a open access and non-discriminatory priced connectivity for these local ISPs to get to the content that their users want to get to, and do that in a way that makes it more of a level playing field. And so the portion of the middle mile network that's on Lumen comes in from Simi Valley, in through Thousand Oaks, and then up along the coast and up through Santa Barbara and through San Luis Obispo. And so we have diversity going to the north. So if you're trying to get up north towards the Bay Area, or you're trying to get south to Los Angeles, you have 2 different directions to go. And then there's also will be connectivity across into the Central Valley. So you can, go up and down the state through the Central Valley as well. So I think that there's a good story about the diversity that we'll have for this backbone network. And then I think, this improved connectivity really spurs economic growth by connecting people to jobs, education, healthcare, state services, et cetera. And that really helps attract and retain businesses. And it also really helps to, increase digital inclusion, because we're expanding, through the middle mile and the local providers. We're expanding internet access, and more importantly, the speed and the reliability of that access. And so that really helps provide equitable access to information and services throughout the region.
We'll pass it over to Jeff.
Yeah, and Scott, is that east-west connectivity that Wiltel fiber that runs across PG&E?
The east, well, some of that east-west connectivity is on Lumen, and that's on the level 3, the old level 3 network.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that goes across into Palmdale, and then it'll come down into Riverside, down into LA.
Okay. Yeah.
And we have a route up the Central Valley as well. But I think CVIN is on that. There's a number of the state's really done a nice job of providing a good web of interconnectivity between the different partners that they picked, so that there should be good diversity.
Yeah. And Astound were due to be approved today, for this grant. for Atascadero and Paso Robles. I'm happy to show those maps, if anybody's interested in that. But they're primarily, we had already built out what I call Old Town Paso Robles, which is west of the river. And the grant covers a little bit of the downtown area, kind of around the fairgrounds. And then it actually has a link that extends out through Creston Road that goes out to a rural area in the southeast of Paso Robles, along Lene Road, whatever. But it does also go past the industrial areas of Paso Robles, which is kind of interesting. And then in Atascadero, there's an area that's completely unserved by wired communications. They have wireless, of course, along San Lucia Road, west of 101. And it goes way back there, all around in a kind of rural residential area. And then there's another small area just southeast of the Santa Rosa exit off of Highway 101. So kind of along Highway 101, a little bit south of Santa Rosa, just a little spot in there. And then I know the city of San Luis isn't on the call today, but they're supposed to be approved for a grant today that we partnered with them on, which would allow quite a bit of infill in unserved areas of the city of San Luis Obispo, where there's already a fair amount of network, but not everywhere. And so we're pretty excited about that. Between the three of those, it's cool. And then the other thing, kind of regarding SurfNet, there are ways we can collaborate together. So, for example, we recently are in the process of finishing 2 underground routes between San Luis Obispo and Grover Beach to handle some new undersea cable traffic. But part of that runs right through Old Oak Park, where SurfNet's scheduled to have 2 different grants, one for Corbett Canyon and one for Old Oak Park. And so there's a possibility we might be able to work together there, provide them some connectivity. And I already talked to Bob Fazolke about that a little bit to see if we could help with that. But I think there are ways we can work together among each other. And then, of course, the way we've worked together with the city of San Luis Obispo has been great for a long, long time, where we really cooperate with each other in every way you can think of. We enjoy working together. We help each other. If they have an issue and they're trying to figure something out, they'll call us and we'll often stop by their office and sit down and talk about it. If we're trying to, they make their network available to us to get in and serve areas. If we run into a snag somewhere, they'll drop everything and come over and say, well, let's see where we can work that out. So I think a lot of that kind of cooperation is really good. The other thing I was mentioning to Shelby earlier this morning is that one thing a lot of people forget about, there's a whole bunch of AT&T dark fiber available between central offices, and the FCC a few years ago closed off access to that. And back during that time, Sonic, our friends at Sonic in Northern California, put a petition for the FCC and said, hey, maybe you should rethink that. Do we really want to take away that dark fiber access that could be used for middle mile access? It's already sitting there. And just recently, John Winhausen's group, the National Library Group, petitioned the FCC to take that issue up again. Hey, why are we shutting off this access at a time when we're trying to really deploy broadband? And there are a number of ISPs of different sizes that need to get between these central offices where that dark fiber is sitting there and it already exists, and could be used economically to connect different cities together. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes, and if the FCC does take that up and look at it seriously. So those are kind of my general comments about what we're working on right now.
Thank you, Jeff. And I just wanted to call out a couple things just to make the connection here. We have a number of representatives of municipalities or county or city or nonprofit directors or the people who are the key contacts. It sounds like the relationship with the city of San Luis Obispo has worked so well because you have the key contacts direct line and you know who they are, you work together well. If you are that person at your organization that can be the key contact for our local ISPs that are putting these projects out, maybe drop your name and your email address in the chat and let us know what organization you can help out with in case there is a hitch or there is something that's stalling a project that could be serving your community members. So I just wanted to call that out as sort of an action item for this conversation. And sort of move into our next question here. How do you hope to work with community anchor institutions and municipalities to improve our access and affordability for our communities? I'm going to sort of transform that question for Scott. Because you're working along the statewide middle mile, and I believe one of the key functions of that route is for municipalities or smaller ISPs to be able to link in at, I don't know, any point along that middle mile. What's your take on that? What's your process for working with the different ISPs and the different municipalities that want to access that middle mile? What is the process that they should be going through from your perspective and in terms of what the CDT is trying to do to get a hut nearby, to get connectivity, to splice in for their community? How would you address that?
Great. So, and I'm sorry if I jumped ahead of you there, Jessica, but just wanted to respond to the question. So our network that so Lumen's made up of many different companies, and one of them was Level 3, who built a national, fiber network. And when they built their fiber network, they did multiple conduits, and so that's very important. So you've got the holes in the ground, and when next generation fiber comes out and new technology comes out, we can pull a new cable through there. So what we're doing with the state is, in some parts, depending on availability, in some parts of the state, we're providing them the entire conduit and pulling their cable through it. In some parts of the state, we're giving them a conduit with our cable in it. They're utilizing our cable. But in either case, every 2,500 feet, we provide the ability for folks to access that network, that cable. And so today, as we're rolling the network out, the state is just deciding where to put handholds and manholes to facilitate that access. So they'll put vaults every 2,500 feet. And so for rural ISPs, municipalities, anybody that wants to interconnect there, I think your first stop should be, you're welcome to contact me at any time, and I'll drop my contact information into the chat. But I think if the state is the one that's deciding when and where to place those access manholes. We've designed the network in a way that we can do it every 2,500 feet. That doesn't necessarily mean the state's going to put one every 2,500 feet because there's costs for them to do that. And of course, in some areas there's never going to be anybody, you're going through a national forest, so you don't really need as many access points there. So I would work with your, the CDT to make sure that they're aware of the needs that you have, and make sure that they're putting those access vaults where you need them, right? And then the other thing I would say, so the way this will work, or as my understanding, so is the middle mile, the MMBI network will provide transport services to folks like Astound or to a municipality or a rural ISP, and that transport will take them wherever they need to go into the state. The general thought is you'll try to get to, if you're in Santa Barbara, you're going to try to get down to LA or up to San Jose. But once you're there, you can get services. And we think that's where Lumen can be helpful as well, because once you get to one of those cities, we can provide our full suite of services over the top of the network, right? So you'll buy the transport from MMBI, and then you'll be able to purchase services from Lumen and from other providers. You know, we don't have an exclusive or anything, but I think we run the largest IP network in the US. It's the most deeply peered network in the world, has tons of connectivity. So that means when you buy the service from us, your users, whether it be consumers or businesses, are going to get a much better performance, and they'll be much more happier with their network. I think I answered that. I was trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to add in. But yeah, I'll drop my contact information. So for the ISPs, they'll be working with our wholesale division. Municipalities will be different. We have a state and local we call it SLED, state local education team that's in the state of California that would probably handle municipalities, community anchor institutions. We also, so for example, the Scenic Network runs on top of the Lumen Fiber network. And so a lot of the community anchor institutions like the community colleges and Cal State and UC system, they all connect via Scenic. But we can also help if they're in another area and they need help facilitating a connection into the Scenic backbone. We can help with that as well.
Thank you. And Jessica, did you want to address anything about how the California Broadband Alliance particularly is able to work with municipalities moving forward as you develop the organization, or with other ISPs in order to improve access and affordability?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the priorities is to make sure that, the local community connectivity providers can access the market in the ways that larger providers can as well. So by maintaining open access in the last mile through the projects that are being awarded is one way. Another way is through bulk purchasing agreements with the manufacturers and warehousers for the equipment. So it's one of the pieces that is a goal for CBA, to be a way for the providers to be able to purchase with the same buying power as some of the larger entities. What Astound had mentioned about partnering with SurfNet, partnerships are the way to get a lot of things accomplished with a lot less cost, and that cost then translates to the fees that the consumers receiving the services pay. So those cost savings get transferred all the way through the chain, and the same thing working with Lumen. So the ISPs purchasing bandwidth from Lumen or transport services from Lumen, Lumen has in my experience been very competitive and helpful to the smaller ISPs. Working with the municipalities, the biggest challenge is knowing who to contact if you have a permitting issue, or you need to find out like the ownership of a particular what's the word, right away, or things like that. Knowing who to contact with the municipalities, working with them to know which areas are priority for them, what is planned for the future. That's something that's really important for any community when there's going to be any sort of ground disturbance through projects with the county and city, working with the local ISPs so that there's one dig and fiber conduit can be placed at the same time that the roads being opened or what have you, and like trying to coordinate those particular things is really again will save a lot of time and a lot of money, but that those savings will then translate through to the consumer and keep the cost low.
And if I could jump in and add to that, I think you're spot on there, Jessica. There's a lot of value in aggregating your traffic, right? So for example, Lumen, we're a member of an organization called the Quilt, which is it's the top research universities across the country. And about 25 years ago, they noticed that, oh, if you wanted to buy internet access, it was, you know, one price in LA and it was a completely different price in Omaha, Nebraska. It was much more expensive. And so they went to all of the carriers and they said, hey, our aggregate traffic of our community is X. So we want to get priced based on X. So every individual can buy, even if they're only buying at the time 100 meg, they would get the price as if they were buying, you know, 200 gig or something like that. And so I think there's ways to do that, you know, like Jeff was talking about, or working with SurfNet and other providers in the area, especially since you'll be getting connectivity up to, you know, say down to LA to buy internet. If you guys go together and buy it, you can demand a much better price when you do that. So just something to keep in mind, that there is a lot of value in aggregating your traffic and your spend to drive down prices.
Beth, did you have anything you wanted to add in terms of ways to work with municipalities particularly, but also our community anchor institutions across our region, help improve that safety net network?
Right. I mean, I think one really big obvious thing is that the cities can be the greatest enablers to broadband deployment, and they can be the greatest obstacle. And that, you know, choosing how they want to work together and prioritize broadband is very important. And what we see is there's a big difference between how different folks in different cities see that. You know, we have some great partnerships with Grover Beach, Atascadero, you know, San Luis Obispo. You know, we've been very successful in Morro Bay. There are other cities that are anxious to work with us. And then, you know, there are other cities, not necessarily right in this direct area. I won't mention it. It's called one. We've been working for 7 years to build a tiny little aerial link between two different cities that runs through their territory. And we can't get them to approve a simple encroachment permit without delay after delay after delay after delay. So, you know, I think a lot of that, what that comes down to is people on this call building and maintaining relationships with elected officials in every city, getting to know those people, helping to bring them along so they understand what this is, this broadband, what the difference is between fiber and its infinite carrying capacity for information and some of the other technologies that are very useful, but won't have the potential in the future. You know, with somebody mentioned earlier, the development of AI and the geometric growth of broadband consumption by all of us, that, you know, we've got to get this fiber infrastructure available to as many people as possible, as fast as we can. And the other technologies that may not survive over the long run are still very useful for a long, long, long time. But let's not sacrifice getting the fiber out there that will give us the ability to really go into the future fully capable everywhere.
Thank you. I want to open it up. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts? We have about probably 5 or 6 minutes before we want to make sure we hit the next panel. We don't have anything. I kind of have a follow-up question. You know, looking into the future, we've been talking a lot about connecting our cities together and what value that will bring in order to have an interconnected region. And I'm curious if any of the three of you or anyone on the call really has a take on that. You know, what would the added value be? We talk about it in terms of resiliency and smart city applications, and having the ability for our transportation systems to have, and I know there's still some stuff to work out with smart city applications, but having our transportation systems be more interconnected and prepared for smart city, and our emergency notification systems Do you guys have a take on that? And when I say guys, I mean everybody.
I do a bit. So with interconnections of cities and municipalities, and even partnering with other ISPs, there's this underlying current that's kind of been woven in of competition. And so these are really bold ideas that are really exciting and effective, and they help everyone. The saying about, when the tides rise is, if you're not stuck to an anchor, everyone will rise up together. And this is an opportunity to like make a decision to do that, to not be anchored to holding to competition, or whatever that might be, in whatever sort of perspective that each type of organization has, but actually relying on each other for support when things break, having a neighbor that you could call that's interconnected with you, so there's compatibility, to be able to share resources, and that's also within people, resources of time and talent of individuals that the neighbor might not have, and vice versa. So it creates a sense of a larger community, not just an individual, small city or town. It creates that tie for the entire county and state.
Yeah, I would second that. I think, there's that saying, I'm paraphrasing here, I don't remember exactly, but the power of the network is increases by the number of connections squared is increases the power of the network, or something to that effect. Jeff's nodding, maybe he can give the real answer there, but the more connectivity you have, particularly in areas today like public safety and things like that, having all these rural communities tightly interconnected is really, really valuable in making sure that you can respond to fires or natural disasters or whatever the situation may be. And then the only other thing I would add is that we don't really know. I mean, we know inherently that the more connectivity you have, the better. But once you have that gives the possibility for invention, right? And so you're going to come up with all these new ideas and all these things that we haven't even dreamed of, that people are going to come up with, that'll be accelerated by having this interconnectivity between citizens and towns.
Jeff, you get the last word.
Yeah, and I would say, it's important to remember personal relationships and the value of that, which is what's great about this organization. And, we found over the last 40 years in telecommunications on the Central Coast, those especially the long time relationships where we build really solid, trusting relationships with folks, where we can pick up the phone and just talk about something and come to an agreement, and we can figure out the paperwork later. But that is incredibly helpful. So the more that we can spend time getting to know one another, on a personal level, as well as, understanding the plans that we're all working on together, we shouldn't underestimate the ability of that to kind of grease the skids and help everything work more smoothly.
Thank you. Thank you. And in that vein, I'll remind everyone that Broadband Consortium Pacific Coast is here to help with that. And so if you need help making connections with your municipal or county champions, or with a local ISP that's serving your community, or that you would like to talk to about serving your community, you can reach out to us as well. And we'd be happy to connect you with hopefully the right person, or the person who can get us to the right person. And we'll put our contact information up at the end again, so that you can make sure you know how to reach us. So thank you to our first panel here. I appreciate your input, and if you have time and could stick around, we would love to have you for the roundtable at the end. And let's go to the next slide and introduce our second panel. I'm going to actually hand it over to Tim Tierney, who will be moderating our second panel.
Okay, thank you, Shelby. I'm one of our panelists is probably going to join at exactly 12:20 because that's when I told him to be here. So, but I've got some remarks to make first. So, starting with hello again, everybody. My name is Tim, doing GIS for the Broadband Consortium. Our second panel is on tools for sharing assets and the importance of that for regional resiliency. And by sharing assets, what we're talking about is a geographic platform. In other words, a map software platform over the internet for people, or rather the different stakeholders that we deal with here, to better interact and collaborate with one another for a more efficient process of doing the planning that's going to be involved in the broadband rollout. And so we're going to be here to talk about how are people doing that kind of work right now? How is this platform that we're rolling out going to be working, and how will that be improving collaboration and ultimately resiliency? And so what I will do is to illustrate what I'm talking about, I'm going to share my screen in a moment here. I got to move a few windows around. I apologize for that. So I can share something. Okay, now I'm going to hit the sharing button. Hey, Shelby, you let me know when you see my screen, okay?
Okay, we've got it.
Okay, thanks. So this is a bit abstract what we have here, but to summarize the idea of what we're doing here, in our 3-county territory, Ventura, Santa Barbara, and SLO counties, we have approximately 170, even a little bit more than 170 parties that we refer to as our stakeholders. And so those break down broadly into county departments. In a typical county, there's around 12 or so map using departments. There's the obvious ones, police, fire. There's also a tax assessor, planning, and departments like that. Similar departments within the various cities, of which there is, I had this number right in front of me. There's at least 30 cities across the 3 counties. But then more interestingly to me is you also have a large number of other stakeholders, which are the CBOs, which are largely invisible because everybody knows to look to a county or a city department for different kinds of things. But these CBOs, unless you're interacting with them directly, or they're reaching out to you and trying to find you and give service to you as a citizen, you often don't know about them, that they even exist, or even know how to look for them. But there's a large number of them out there as well. And so these are all parties that if you're a city or you're a county department, you're often making and definitely directly using GIS data, mapping data all the time in the course of the work that you do. The CBOs aren't too much in the business of making their own data, but they certainly have a need for using map-based data and mapping systems. And they are, in my view, the ones that could really benefit from what we're doing here and ultimately give benefit back. And I'll explain what I mean by that statement in the course of the panel here. But to go on to part 2 of my overview graphic, in very broad terms here, what we are proposing to do is to put out a common repository of data, okay? And with this data coming from, as I've indicated here, different in city and county departments, the various CBOs, telecoms as well, and finally, kind of a catch-all, some question marks, whoever else we may discover, since my listing here is not meant to be exhaustive. And coming out of this repository of data data is only good when you use it. And so coming out of this repository of data, there's going to be maps, dashboards, and other interactive tools so that the data can be leveraged for beneficial interactive sessions, so people are getting value from the data. And so to illustrate further now, I'm going to move away from my abstract diagrams into something a bit more specific. What we have here now, one of our panelists that actually couldn't make it, unfortunately, but their map is standing in for them, is the city of Moore Park in Ventura County. And what we're looking at here is the Moore Park online mapping tool, and which is giving us, if we look at the legend here, they've got about 15 different map data layers that are in the tool, and you can turn different things on or off. And right now I have kind of everything turned on, so it's a very colorful and it's a very busy map. This tool is it's a one-off system that they are exclusively using, that they've uploaded their data into, and that they've put out this interactive map so that the general public, if you know how to find this tool at all, can have an experience of doing some data discovery and understanding what kinds of things that they've got. And even you can access the data and download it and do some things with the data on your own if you have the proper software to do so, okay? Now, let me show you another example of another stakeholders map. So this being just the city of Moore Park. And if we zoom out, you can see, as I go to the county scale, they've got their own data, but that's all they've got because they're just the one city in the county. Now, taking the inverse example, what we have here, this very overwhelming map, because I turned a lot of data on, is this is the county of Ventura map. So similar to the cities, it's on a mapping system that the county has purchased a license for, and they put their data into the map. And now they've got, you can see here on the left side, lots and lots of different data layers, a lot of stuff going on. And again, the same experience. You can load the map. You can navigate around on the map. You can zoom in, zoom out, whatever. You can turn different data layers on or off. There's facility for doing some querying. And ultimately, if you find something that's really interesting and you want to get it for your own use, if you have your own desktop software, you can obtain the data and do something with it. And let's see, I just zoomed out of it. But and if here we are, and if I zoom in on the Moore Park spot, what's interesting is all this little spot right here where City of Moore Park is, you'll notice there's not much going on because this is controlled by the municipality. And so the county actually doesn't have any data to show for City of Moore Park, or at least not much, because you'd have to go to the city for that. All right. My purpose in showing you guys this is that while these are great tools and it's a nice resource that the city and the county are both doing, and others, and there are other cities that have their own online maps as well. This is not to denigrate what there is here, but there is also a problem, or you might say a gap in services here, which is these are different mapping tools on different systems, which are intended mainly for viewing data, understanding, and doing some discovery. And if you want to take it further than a certain minimal level of online interaction, you've got to download the data sets and you got to have your own desktop software or whatever to take it further. And so these tools get you so far, but they don't really get you all the way in terms of where we would like to go. Because what we are proposing is a system where, again, recalling the diagram that I put out, is one where there's a common repository, so you're not having to jump between different data systems to do discovery. You can do all your discovery in one spot. And also that as we discover what kinds of needs different municipalities or stakeholders have in interacting with one another, we can build specific tools in there to facilitate those kinds of interactions so that you don't have to download the data out to a desktop tool to get the entirety of your work done. And the last thing I'll say as I'm telling my story here is that another municipality that I'll mention right now up front, also not here today because it appears to be that everybody's at an Autodesk conference right now, is the city of Port Hueneme. I did have a conversation with their IT director and person who would also serve as their mapping director the other day about our panel today. And he surprised me by saying that, yeah, mapping. Well, you know, we're Port Hueneme, we're kind of a smallish municipality, and we don't have any mapping tools or any mapping data whatsoever. When we need something, when we need data or we need something done through mapping tools, we'll reach out to another friendly municipality or maybe the county to get us the data or to do the analysis that we need done, almost on a do us a favor kind of basis. And so when they absolutely have to do something themselves, they're using Autodesk instead of GIS mapping tools. And so there's an example of an actual municipality that's that is what I would call under-resourced in these regards. So I think there's a lot of need out there, you know, despite the fact that you can discover impressive maps full of tons of data like this one here from the county. Despite that, there's actually a lot of need, not only from CBOs, but even from some of the smaller municipalities as well. And in fact, at this point, before I let my panelists say anything, is I want to direct a question to one person in the audience today, Maria Gardner. Maria, are you there? I was messaging you through the chat saying that I wanted to pull you into the conversation. I didn't want to surprise you, but I don't know if you saw that message. If you're there,
no,
Maria?
I'm here. I didn't see the message, but that makes sense because I see that my chat says if I reply, I'm replying to you. So, but I don't see the message still. I'm a little tech challenged, so it's funny that I'm on this.
Okay, well, Maria, welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
Now, Maria, here's the question I'm going to direct to you. It's been my experience that government agencies, you know, particularly the larger ones, they've got tools and resources and staff to do mapping things. And so, which is why I was saying City of Moore Park, they got maps, the county of Ventura, they've got maps, but the problem is they're on different systems. And so when it comes to them coordinating and interacting between the two stakeholders, they've got problems there, but at least they have data, they have tools, and they have people who know how to use the tools. It's been my experience, though, that amongst CBOs, that's where you really get into the really serious need, because it's at that level that there's not the data, there's not the tools, and there's not the people who would know how to use the tools. And so there's a more intense need there, but there is an intense potential to do a lot of good because CBOs they're going into neighborhoods, and they're often the ones who are working most directly with the public. And so it is my thesis that if the CBOs could be resourced with these kinds of tools, that there'd be that this would be meeting a largely unmet need, and that well, I'll stop there. I have a part 2 to that, but actually I'm going to let you talk because I've been doing all the talking so far. Is my experience and what I'm describing here, does that conform with your own experience?
I definitely think that people have different tools and different level of resources. I think that it's quite common for people across organizations, CBOs up to the larger government entities to want to map their constituents or the people that they're serving, and have found ways to do that through census data and things like that if they don't have something homegrown. I do think some organizations, even CBOs, are more well-resourced than others. For example, I'm with the Department of Social Services within the county. And a little over a year ago, we implemented a new eligibility system. We went from CalWIN to CalSAWS, and we are rolling up our sleeves, and we actually kind of initiated the conversation with our other county partners, and we're not alone, because now all 58 counties are using the same eligibility system, and LA County, if you can imagine, is quite large. So we're on a GIS committee to discuss what it is that we need or are lacking in these areas to be able to stand up reporting. For social services, that's important because about 35 to 40% of the county is involved with one form or another of a social services program. And so, you know, we largely serve the low income population. So it blends really nicely with these efforts, which is why I'm sort of at the table in the first place, is because if anything, we can help with messaging out to our clients. But we're kind of in this holding pattern with our new system, having a lot of promise, but we don't yet have a lot of proficiency with how to query it and stand up those reports. But I mean, I think that your experience is valid, but I don't think it's an across the board that CBOs don't have this and large government agencies do. So I don't know if that helps.
Well, sure. Okay, that's a reality check. I'm not 100% right. That's okay.
And Tim, I will also just invite maybe Liliana, who asked in the chat, is this a live URL? Can anyone view this map? Liliana, you're from LA Deal, is that right? You're with LA Deal? Maybe she can't talk right now. I just thought maybe her perspective, she could bring in a perspective also representing CBOs, but also, you know, how valuable this type of tool might be for other consortia as well.
Okay, well, she'll join when she's ready to join, I'm sure. How about this? So what I've laid out here, again, to summarize, is there are mapping tools out there, but they're often independent systems that are not hooked up together. There's kind of a problem. Also, mapping tools, they don't percolate down. Access, usage of these tools do not percolate down to all the levels of the different stakeholders. We have smaller municipalities that don't have anything, and in the CBO world, there's not 100% usage either. And so it's our mission to not replace everybody's favorite tools with something we're putting out, but rather to put out a tool that serves a specific niche, which is towards collaboration. Okay. Now we are going to, besides Maria, who I just kind of drafted onto our panel, I think to her surprise, I do have two scheduled panelists, one of whom hasn't joined yet. But let's start with our other panelist, Samantha Goodwin. Samantha, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Glad to be here.
Okay, hi, Samantha, and we're glad that you are here. Is that, are you really hiking somewhere, or is that just a realistic screen background?
No, I'm out in the yard. I'm taking my cat on our lunch walk. So.
Okay. Okay.
All of that.
Yeah, so I can, did you want me to go ahead and introduce myself?
Well, yes, Samantha, you know, you and I have spoken about the needs of what Astound is doing, and which is kind of a different thing from the typical needs of a municipality, but there is a need for-profit entities like Astound to interact with stakeholders in areas that they're doing business. And I think that if you told your story and how what we're doing here is of potential utility to Astound, I think that'll be of value to everybody. So please take it away.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Yeah, hello, everybody. I think I do have a very good perspective on this issue. So I have about 10 years of experience using GIS for mapping and data analysis for lots of different projects, lots of different groups. And I have also had the privilege of being an AmeriCorps community connectivity intern, serving as a community broadband coordinator for Tillamook County in Oregon, which was the county that I live in. So that was great. I was able to work for my own community. And during that that time, that year that I spent with them, my job was to create broadband availability mapping, a really accurate analysis of where the county had internet and who in the county didn't have good internet, and to really push for solutions to get people the internet that they need. So it was my job and my passion for a long time. And then now I can use that same skill set and that same perspective with Astound. I'm a project manager, and I get to work on expanding Astound's fiber network to people that don't have good internet. So it's been a boon in my own community. And we have, as you probably know, lots of projects going on in your area as well, trying to do the same work, trying to get that internet out to people who need it. So with the maze of public-private partnerships that I've been part of on both the public and the private side, it's such a common problem, to just one of those sort of tedious background problems that technicians have to deal with, of sharing the information, just making sure that the accurate data is held by everybody, the most up-to-date and accurate data, because when you don't have that, it just slows everything down, and it can be a real headache. It can be a situation that puts you at risk of missing grant deadlines and other things like that. So when I did get a chance to look at this tool that Tim is proposing and that Tim has created, and I think it's a wonderful tool. It looks like it's the solution. It's really the solution to a problem that we all have had to deal with, which is just sharing the data, having everything in one place. I've had to put in so much time trying to gather the data from all the separate sources within a county. Never mind when you start talking about larger groups with multiple cities, multiple counties, and everybody having their own data sets. So I was looking at this tool with Tim, and yeah, I think it has the potential to be so useful for consortiums, for public-private partnerships, for this exact situation where multiple groups of people are trying to share their data to put projects together and move forward on issues, instead of just getting bogged down with what exactly people have and whether that's really there or not. It would be such a relief to be able to move past that. So I guess that's my perspective.
Thank you, Samantha. Let me, there was a certain way you phrased things when we were talking that I think would be valuable to get into, which is now when a municipality, municipalities have their own infrastructure and parcels and zoning areas and whatnot that is public information, and they want to put it out there to the public. Now, Astound is a private company. Your mission is not to put out data for the purpose of public service. You're maintaining data to advance the different projects that you're doing. So it's a little bit of a different mission that you guys have with working with data, but you still do have the need to interact with municipalities, for instance, and I'm sure other stakeholders in areas that you're doing your projects. And when we were talking about that, and I was asking you, well, right now, I mean, are you interchanging a lot of data or a little bit, and how do you do it? And the way you put it to me, as I recall, and you can correct my recollection, was that, well, it's a lot of emails with a lot of attachments, and it's not very efficient. So can you address that for a second?
Yeah, so with our public-private partnerships that we have in multiple states and multiple communities, where we really do need to be able to share infrastructure data, where are your conduits, where are your pipeline, where's your traffic networks? We're going through this with some of the cities in this consortium right now. And so it's emailing KMZs back and forth, and it's clumsy. It results in multiple iterations as we update or make changes, or say we're trying to determine the scope of a project. How about we go down this road? How about we go down this road? We're just trading KMZs back and forth of, with changes and little updates, and it can be cumbersome, and you have to make sure everybody's on the right edition of the new project. And it's the way that we find it's most easy for our partners to engage with us, because like you said, everybody has a different mapping program. Some people don't have any at all. By and large, they can be quite expensive, and it's quite a burden to put on a partner to try and expect them to be at the same mapping tool that you're using and whatnot. So it definitely is a challenge, and that's the way we solve it, kind of leaning back on that very basic technology of emailing attachments. So yeah, I think that some kind of streamlining system for us, even being able to work with a partnership, a consortium that had all of their data already put together into this one map like that, it would be a huge benefit to us if we were to try and get a project started. Just be able to access that in a very easily accessible format with everything that we need in one place, increasing the speed that we can do our analysis and get back quotes. It just seems to me like, but I mean, that's my personal pet project is good mapping data. So to me, it really can only help to have everybody on the same page, literally and figuratively.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Now, what I've been showing you guys thus far, I showed you City Moore Park map. I showed you County of Ventura map. I made mention that City of Port Hueneme doesn't even have a map. I will show you, and I'm going to make this brief actually, because I don't want to get into a really long software demo, but just to show you this map and mapping tool I'm talking about. I have it up on the screen right now, okay? And again, this is a mapping platform where everybody can be putting in their own data, then from the common repository of data that is controlled, by the way, by sharings and permissions. So even if a member puts data in, it remains their data under their control through permissions, okay? But then somebody can come in, and if they have permission to view someone else's data, they can build a map from the data, which I've done here. So MAPA got this centered on Santa Barbara County at the moment. I have a small number of data layers in it. This could be many more data layers than I presently have. And you can do the standard things. You can turn things on, you can turn things off. You can query data. So if I mouse over an area, I can get a query on the points that fell within the polygon I drew, and it's showing me here that I have hits across multiple data layers. And if I want to explore the data in a particular layer that I did hits on, here I found 282 hits in a particular data layer, and I can search and sort on the data layer. I can export this out as on a spreadsheet. And there's other analytical things that are in this tool, and that could also be added to the tool in the future as we discover what different people's analytical needs are. So in terms of the visual side of this tool, this is a very quick trip through it. I could do a much longer software demo, but that's for another time. But then what's a little bit less sexy to look at, but ultimately more important, is the back end of the tool here, which is if I click in to the data layers that I own, here I'm presented with a kind of a dull looking table, but every row on this table is a map data layer, okay? And if I click in to one of these map data layers, then I get the details on the map layer. I have an overview image and whatnot, and I can ultimately go down into the records on the layer itself, which I'm doing. When it decides to load my page for me, here it comes. Okay, and so here, okay, it's not a very interesting set of data, but the point is I can go down into the details of the data. And what I can also do is when other people are sharing their data to me, I can explore other people's data, not just my own. So there's this selector here and it says my data. But if I want to go to data that other people have shared to me, now it's loading data that's coming from other parties, okay, that are indicated right here. Santa Barbara County Department of Public Works, it says, right? Or here's Gus Mayo, or Santa Barbara County Fire Department, which just kind of went by as I was scrolling. And so here we are getting past this issue of people having their data kind of stashed away or siloed, as computer people would say, on separate systems that don't talk, because this is, again, single system, single repository. You can find things across different municipalities or county departments or whatever, and then build maps from it and do analysis from it. And it's a way that can facilitate the entire workflow. Now, all right, now I'm going to cut off my very fast software demo right there, because really what we're talking about here on today's panel is ideas more than specifics of what happens when you click a certain button. And towards ideas, I'm going to invite our other panelist who's been waiting in the wings to introduce himself and have a conversation with me. We're honored today to have the Santa Barbara County surveyor. So he is the director of the surveyor department at Santa Barbara County. Alex, can you come on and introduce yourself?
Hello, Tim, and everyone. I hope you guys can see and hear me. I've been sitting here from the beginning. Actually, I logged in 2 minutes before 12:20. Hello, everyone, and yeah, it's very interesting conversation, and it kind of opens a lot of questions and gives good ideas. I'd like to talk a little bit about our experience with the simple layers and Tim's team. We've been using his services for more than, I'd say, 15 years by now, for our interactive web-based map that looks similar to what Tim has on the screen. It just has more layers. So the county of Santa Barbara had a GIS enterprise system back in mid 2000s, and then due some reorganization, we kind of all went on different ways. Each department and also divisions of the departments were doing mapping and GIS for their own purposes. Recently, a couple of years ago, county revamped that idea of getting enterprise. So we got enterprise license with Esri, and trying to integrate in similar fashion than Tim was talking for the county departments and divisions in the department. And that's moving pretty well, I would say. But I just wanted to mention that during all that period of time, we served the customers. As each surveyor's office does, we provide spatial indexing of different maps that we are required to do according to the state law. And that transition happened back 15 years ago, and we never looked back to the old ways we were providing the service to the customers. We basically upload all the layers that we use for our service, and there's a bunch of layers. I don't know if I can share my screen, but it's a wealth of information we have and we share with our customers. So pretty much the surveyor and planning industry in the Santa Barbara County relies on this each day at night. They usually do research when they are surveying in the field during the day, on the weekends, during the times off. They go into our interactive map and pull the information they need. We provide scans of these maps, and we provide the work indexing and spatially indexing all these maps into the system. And then if a surveyor looks for a certain area and certain type of maps, can pull all the information we have. We also have LAFCO maps in our system. We do LAFCO mapping, basically mapping for our LAFCO County LAFCO agency. And that's also on our system. And I think about this system is the way the licensing is structured and everything. We can be very creative, much more creative than using the big enterprise systems as far as how we display our data. And that's probably close to the topic of today's discussion, I'd say. So we have multiple browsers, if you wish, and we can design a team that is gonna fit to the use of the customer. So just recently we started we created a separate layer for our customers, the private survey firms that set survey monuments in the tracts. And we are supposed to do inspection of those tracts, big subdivisions, to make sure all those monuments corners are set in the right place. We created a specific layer where we assign a project and send a link to the surveyor who is setting those monuments. So instead of us going out there and inspecting each of that corner, now as they set those monuments, they snapped a photo of that monument and they uploaded that directly to our system, basically. So that's a huge saving for us. We don't need to send our staff out there to actually beep and look for those monuments, and also huge saving for the developer as well. So that's one example of collaboration using this system. And yeah, I'll stop there if you have any questions or comments.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, we're actually nearing the top of the hour, and we want to try to open this up for other people to make any remarks. If there is something you wanted to share while we're having a discussion, you could share your screen. But what I want to add to what you're saying, Alex, is that Santa Barbara County Public Works Surveyor has been using this particular tool for well over 10 years with good success. And last time I looked, you have over 300 different map data layers in there. And you are using it to collaborate amongst different office workers and field workers, and also to do some collaboration between different departments within Santa Barbara County. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a kind of a similar depository for the county where we all save the data sets and layers that each department works on, and we can load these layers into our map. So that way those are shared. Typically you see assessor's base map basically that we include into our interactive map.
Okay. So everybody, we ran a little bit long on this panel. I'm sorry, but in the last few minutes, if anyone wants to throw out any ideas or questions or observations, we do have a few minutes.
Yeah.
And actually, this is for both panels, right, Shelby?
Yeah, sure. And I just wanted to say thank you to Alexander and Samantha and Tim for putting this together and sharing your insights from your professional perspectives around this shared mapping platform. Thank you, Maria, for jumping in and giving your professional insight as well. I really appreciate all of the conversation. Does anyone have any questions or ideas, thoughts that they wanted to share, updates for us?
Shelby, this
Yeah.
is Art Clifford.
Hi.
I kind of would like to ask Alex, because Alex, I'm Tim's programmer. We haven't really met, but we've kind of worked together indirectly for a long time. You have access to some of the more impressive web maps I've seen created, not because I wrote the software, but because of the work Danielle has done. And I was wondering if you have the ability to show any of those, just to let people see what a depth of data can do for.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the share button here on my screen. I'm not sure if I haven't used Zoom for a while, so that's probably why I was late, because I was okay. Here's the share button.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope you guys can see. Yeah, that's our web-based interactive map with multiple layers. I hope you can see this.
Yes, we see it.
Okay, good. Yeah, so you see a similar map that Tim had up, but yes, this is a collection of the layers that basically we don't release to the customers, but this is our internal use. I just and there are subsets of these layers. Some are the sources of these layers are different Probably some like base layer is a commercial layer that came with the simple layers. But we have, for example, we have census data loaded here for our own use. We don't put that for outside customers yet, but also we have these aerial images that county acquired. You can, take any of these since 2010 and use them. Watersheds with this comes from our water agency. It's a layer, GIS layer that we just load. We have a lot of road right-of-way indexes here. We have road maintenance that comes from our transportation division. Even though they use different platform in their GIS mapping, we load all of this that can help us when we are doing our daily business. We have this jurisdictional cities that we maintain the boundaries of. Assessor is created by the assessor's office. Some of these jurisdictional boundaries, school districts, Los Padres National Forest. We load pretty much everything we find useful. We load into this system. Geodetic Control Index for surveyors. These are documents that we index for lot line adjustments, mergers, certificates of compliance that record that we deal with. So it's a wealth of information, and I'm not sure if Art, if this is what you meant when you asked the question.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
I have Caltrans index that that has that came from Caltrans mapping division. We use that, and we put most of this we put it out there for the private surveyors, and they love it. It's been around. This is the new version that now can be used in the field on the mobile devices, and you have these options where you actually can buffer and search by using mobile device GPS, and it brings you into the vicinity. And people that are in the field, I don't know how much you deal with the surveyors, but this is huge for them. I'll just make one example and I'll stop. The old way it was, a surveyor gets into his pickup truck, drives to our office from wherever he works, and then goes through the paper indexes and finds a map and then buys a copy of that map from us. So this is huge improvement. Nobody complains about this. The best thing, it's free for our users. So that's if there were ideas to start billing certain amounts, subscription, this and that, but that would definitely reduce the number of users. So my opinion is all these services should be provided for free by the agencies, and that's probably the best impact to the community.
Great.
I'll stop it now.
Yeah, and I just thank you again. Thank you so much. And to bring it back into this broadband perspective, as valuable as this is for individual surveyors, we've also got this applicability within our region to highlight what the digital inclusion assets are, right? And the assets that are useful for our digital inclusion practitioners. Right? So the same way that the surveyors are all accessing the information they need to do their job successfully, our folks from deployment professionals, construction, ISPs, over to our municipalities who are working on community networks, who are working on connecting their parks and their community centers, over to our digital inclusion practitioners who are looking for digital literacy labs or community computer centers. Those would all be able to be shared in this joint system so that we can be having the same conversation about the same assets and directing our community members to the resource that they need, or our stakeholders to the resources that are missing, right? And so we can be more targeted in our development. We are at the top of our hour. I thank everyone who participated in this call, and thank you all also for joining and listening. We can stick on for, 5 more minutes or so if anyone has any wrap-up questions that they'd like to ask. We will send the recording out and along with the links that have been shared in the chat and a copy of the slides so you can access the interactive slides as well. So thank you again for coming. We hope to see you all in November. We'll be doing our annual wrap-up and our look forward to 2025 and hope to see you there. Bye. Bye. Thanks, Maria. Thanks to all of our panelists. Really appreciate your time as well.
Delving.
Yeah, thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, John, for being here.
Well, I got word that the grants have all been approved.
Woohoo!
I don't, I heard it secondhand, but it looks like the PUC meeting is over.
All right, great.
So I
Great
didn't
spot to stop our
actually,
recording.
yeah, so I didn't see that on the website, but
It takes them a little time to update the website. Congratulations to all of our FFA applicants in SLO County, or awardees, excuse me.
yeah, because